program, which started several years ago, I recognize the fact that if we didn't do something, there would be very little recognition of the fact that African Americans were as big a part of Gregg County as Gregg County was. And actually we were here before Gregg County, and I wanted to do something that would represent, and give us that representation. So I did some brainstorming. Before I came up with an idea about a year or so ago, they had an event over in Tyler at the downtown theater of the five families of Smith County. And one of the people that was there was Deborah Christian. I don't know if Deborah hadn't made it here yet, but Deborah was one of the presenters at that event, and they had families from Smith County that smoked, Reverend Spotsnoddy. And they said, well, I want to do something like that, something in the line of the families or the people of Gregg County. But it was kind of, as I started to call around, it was just kind of gaudy to try to pull that information together because there's so much I didn't know. And then some of the things that I did know, it just didn't really add up. So I just kind of sit on it for a minute. And then all of a sudden I saw something, this idea popped in my head, well, historical markers. We have lots of historical markers. But at that time, I didn't know how many we had. I just knew we had a lot, but I didn't know actually how many. And I went through the list. I went through the website for the Gregg County Historic Commission, and I found that all of them weren't there. All of them that we had weren't there. And then I went through the state commission, and it hadn't been updated, so they weren't there. So I started out with 16, I think it might have been 15 or 16 is what I started out with, and I was communicating back and forth with Jim Meacham, and well, I'm surprised it was that many, and then it just kept digging on me that some of them are not here. I know where some of these markers are, but they're just not on this list for some reason. And as I went through and got the finalization and got all the information, she had sent me some more information, I came to the conclusion that there's 17 markers plus the 1919. There's 18 markers. So that'll be my exhibit, the 18 markers of African American markers of Gregg County. So I put that together and went and pulled up all the information, and then I designed a presentation, but I wasn't sure how I was going to present it. Some of you all have seen the other part. This is an extension of what I started out with, but I have a portable display that we set up at the library all last summer, and it was the pictures and just a little bit of information about all those markers. But my intention was to do something that I could take to, out of the 18 markers, 9 of them were churches, and I wanted to take them out to the public. So if you couldn't make it to the library, what I've been doing is taking it to some of the 9 churches that were on the exhibit. And Reverend Snoddy, and we had the Bethel, we had your church, Post Oak, and we still got some more to go. I've done 5 churches, and I have 4 more to go. Then after that, we're going to line this thing up to go to churches that need to apply for historical markers. We're so proud of Bethel. Bethel is celebrating 150 years as established. They were here right after they got it, but you know they said 150. They're if you read that thing, they're older than that, but they are officially 150. So we want to recognize them. I was thinking the praise dancers was going to come. I got a message that they may have the flu or something. I don't know if they'll make it or not. But those were the things that inspired me to go ahead and do this. And in the process of that, I got in touch with Lindsay. We've always communicated. We've always had good, strong communications. And we just kind of agreed that it would be something nice to do the 18 markers here for an exhibit for Black History Month and beyond. And that's what brings you all here today. And just to kind of see what she has done. My only issue is she's got this fetish with everything being on Shiloh Road. I have no idea how that came to be. Everybody's not, all of these are not on Shiloh Road. They're at different locations.
I will fix that, Greg.
No, not a problem, not a problem. I just wanted to mention that. But what I wanted to just say briefly is the idea of how all this came to be. These 18 markers, minus the 1919 race riot, but all of these markers were representative of the communities that were settled after the Civil War, which we call freedom colonies. And all these communities, how are you, sir? Come on in, come on in. All right. Hey, Tara.
Hi there.
Come on in, have a seat. We're starting, so. Fantastic, fantastic. We'll catch up in a minute. But, okay, you're still coming. Okay, come on in, come on in. As I was saying, these were originally freedom colonies. These are communities that were settled after the end of the Civil War. And Reverend Snoddy has some good stories, has a good story about how his family got established. But my family was established, the community that I lived in. We call it Oil Center now, but it wasn't that before the oil boom. But we have a little community out on Highway 31. And that was a community that was settled after the Civil War. My grandparents are staying on the property that they were on as slaves. It's amazing, but that was the property. I had brought my other project. This is an extension of another project that I'm working on. My second project, which is on display now at the Longview Library, is the Rosenwald schools that were established in Gregg County. And I drew up a brochure, and you can be sure to grab you one before you get out of here. And it was a map of, you'll see on that, this is just a map of the locations of the Rosenwald schools and the other schools that were in Gregg County. These mirror these markers that we have now here. And these are locations of freedom colonies that were settled after the Civil War for the most part. And most of these communities are still here today. And they have people that were ex-slaves. But the thing I wanted to mention about Bethel and all this, the big part, you'll have a marker for Preacher's Hill. Preacher's Hill was the conglomeration of the black community here in Longview. And my research, I've discovered that after the Civil War was over, a lot of slaves stayed on the plantations where they were. So my family, an example, we owned land where we were slaves, amazingly enough. But the thing of it is a lot of the slaves, they didn't want to stay on the plantation. So they just went all over, and one of the places they came was this Preacher's Hill area where they were citizens here in Longview. But it was just a little conglomeration of blacks in this area. Preacher's Hill is just right over there by Good Shepherd. Hello, Reverend. But it was over by the Good Shepherd Hospital, and that was the black area, and the Grable, not Grable, that was the park. The park that's over by McDonald's now. That land was given to the African American slaves after the Civil War, and we have a marker for that back there. But that was in some of the areas where we were. And from that, we expanded. We finally was able to leave that area, so we migrated out to where St. Mark's is now, where Red Oak is, where Bethel is some of the locations that started right over here. But as we grew, we expanded out, and that just gave us ability. But one of the things that, with Bethel celebrating its 150th anniversary, that church was started after slavery, but it was started by slaves. those people that started were slaves, and that became free, and they were able to worship like they wanted to worship. Same thing with Pleasant Green. We have the cemetery, the Grable Cemetery. Slaves are buried there. Most of these cemeteries that you see will have slaves buried in them. And these people, when you go back and you look at those headstones, anybody that was born before 1865, or technically 1863, because that was the Emancipation Proclamation. Before 1863, and I'm going to say in Texas 1865, because they didn't recognize that here for a long time. Those were slaves. And we have some opportunities coming up. We don't have two cemeteries, two historic cemeteries with markers. And we have tons and tons of cemeteries that we need to do a campaign to try to get recognized. And I'm telling you, a lot of the young people are kind of unaware of our history. That's my goal. I hope that God gives me the strength to keep discussing this, so we can go out and inspire our communities to get these markers. So after we're long gone, people will know that this was something that existed in a different time, in a completely different time. And it'll tell those stories. So we have churches, we have schools, it's not just locations, it's people. Butcher Christian, we have some historic people here in East Texas that I'd like to see us do some markers about. So we have opportunities to do this. I'd like to be an old man in a wheelchair doing marker applications. That would be the coolest thing in the planet for me if I don't have Alzheimer's. But hopefully I can inspire us to go out and to take advantage of that and to get our community recognized. Let me tell you really quickly, mixed up in these things are a map of Smith County. I got this project started with Smith County. And Smith County has had 70 African American schools, and none of them are recognized. None of them. We're way ahead of a lot of communities here in little old Gregg County. But I think I'd like to spread this opportunity. And we got Jackie Shaw. Jackie is the representative from Russ County, and we're working on some things, helping her work on some projects there in Russ County. We got the old Henderson School. It's not recognized. We have, they're working on a marker for a school called, Rosenwald School called Concord. These are just the schools. All of these places have cemeteries. All of these places have churches. All these places have people of significance that we can do historical things about. So hopefully we can do that. What I wanted to do was just kind of expand out and get how's our time? I don't have a clock, but what we wanted to do was just kind of go over. I visited got to really know Reverend Snyder. I've always known him through the commission. I've seen him in the meeting, but we never really sit down and fellowship until I got over to his church to set up the 18 markers. And he just told me some fascinating things. And he's originally from, their family is originally from Smith County. He was telling me that was over by the airport there in Smith County. And he tells the story of how they got here. And he and Deborah, he has a connection between he and Deborah and Shiloh. Shiloh is a significant community. There's another thing with this exhibit where I'm working to get this online. I want to get this connected through the Gregg County Historic Commission so we can have an online section so you can, if anybody is interested, can pull that history up. But one of the things that I encourage you all to do, these markers are in kind of obscure places. If you don't know where Shiloh is, you won't just be driving down Highway 80 and see a marker for Shiloh. You have to know where Shiloh is, and it's a good place to go. If you're out exploring or riding around, oh wow, I didn't know Shiloh was out here. And so those are some of the things that you can do to just get out and take advantage of that opportunity to see some of these locations and just kind of reminisce about how we got started. I'm going to let Reverend Snyder introduce himself and just tell us a little bit about his story. It's very interesting, very historic.